We will call the Stevens Point Public School Board regular meeting for June 12th, 2017 to order. And our first item will be the oath of office for the newly appointed board member, and Trish Baker, board member, will be administering the oath.
I'm the only one that's a notary public.
Well, no, a couple of us are, but
I am no longer.
no, you're no longer.
So please raise your right hand. I, Mike Wade,
I'm Mike Wade.
having been appointed to the Board of Education of the Stevens Point Area Public School District,
I have been appointed to the Board of Education of the Stevens Point Area
Public
Public
School
School
District,
District,
swear or affirm
swear or affirm
that I support the Constitution of the United States
that I support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge
and will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my
So
abilities.
help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to bring it over to you, okay?
So we'll have Mike sign it, and then Trish can notarize it, and then we'll be all official.
Okay, so I'm signing it, and then I'm going to sign it. Ready to rock and roll.
So, do you know Lee Bush got hired? Michigan.
So a unique fact, attorneys receive an indefinite or for lifetime appointment as notary.
Really? Here we go, it's official.
All right.
You're in.
So now we can move on to item 2A, which is Sue, could you do roll call and verification of quorum?
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Daly.
Here.
Mr. Ebel.
Here.
Ms. Furler.
Here.
Mr. Wade.
Here.
Mr. Contos.
Here.
Ms. Fortson.
Here.
Ms. Randall.
Here.
Ms. Scott.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam President.
And we will skip 3A. We have already seated our new board member. And we will move into the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight, we have, the pledge will be led by Girl Scout Troop number 6053, Carolyn Daly, Catalina Gisco, Anna Wilson, McKenna Danchik, Brielle Danchik, Madison Danchik, Alexandria Voller, Ariana Voller, Josie DeRosa, Abigail Bumowski, and Lily Perlak. And thank you so much for all of you coming out, especially with the storm tonight. That was probably pretty scary driving here with all the thunder and lightning, but we really appreciate you being here. If you turn the flags right here, and you guys go ahead when you're ready.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could just,
Do the best I can on these names. Caroline, I met you last week. Thanks for coming. McKenna. Rio. Braley. Thank you. Madison. Alexandria. Ariana. Josie. No. Abigail. What's your name? What's your name? Reed? What's your last name? Madison. Yes, you do. What's your name? here, and you're gonna come here, and if you could tell Sue your name, please. And then we're gonna get a picture. Come on, come back here. Please. Come on back here. We're gonna get a picture.
Picture's gonna go that way, girlies.
We're gonna right up front.
What's your name?
Green.
Rain, R-A-I-N.
R-A-Y-N.
And last name?
M-I-C R-A-Y-N.
E.
Matson. M-A-T-T-I-S-O-N.
M-A-T-T.
No. J-I.
I-S-O-N.
Yes.
Okay.
Little technical difference.
And the same last name.
Same last name. What's your first name?
Whisper.
Whisper. W-H-R-S-P-E-R. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna
Go take your picture.
Parents, thanks for coming tonight. Wave. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, let's all scooch in here. With a big smile.
Get the little ones in the front, there you go.
Can you see that nice picture? Yeah, you're losing one.
Oh, come on here, sweetie.
There you go.
I know the feeling. I've been lost in pictures before.
Step right up here. Shake the hands of the school board and go all the way around the circle here. Come on up, girls.
Thanks for coming.
Good job.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming, Caroline. Thank you for coming. Thanks for coming, Caroline. Thanks for coming. Nice job. No, wait a minute, Caroline. Thanks for helping out. Thanks for helping out. Whoa, sorry. Thanks for coming tonight.
Awesome job.
Thanks.
Beautiful voice. I heard you guys. You are strong. You guys did an awesome job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good job, thanks.
Great job.
Good job, thanks, good job.
Those little vests are so cute.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, what a sweetie. Well, and I want to thank Board Member Amy Daly, because it is sometimes difficult to find Pledge of Allegiance leaders during the summer, and she was wonderful in organizing this group to come tonight, so thank you. Moving on to item 5, public comments. There was no one that signed up. Is there anyone in the audience this evening that did not sign up to speak but would like to address the board? No one is present. We will move on to item 6, presentations, which is Wisconsin Association of School Boards. Dan?
Madam President and fellow board members, the legislature is continuing to work on several bills, a couple things that you probably ought to be aware of. There's going to be a public hearing on the referendum bills that will be happening this Thursday. So if you get the opportunity to head down to Madison, it's at 10 o'clock on June 15th. There'll be the 3 assembly bills that are currently being vetted. That's Assembly Bill 282, considering resolutions to issue bonds by common and union high school districts and prohibiting voting on resolutions to exceed the revenue limits. 268 having to do with exceeding revenue limits and the applicability to school districts, and 269 relating to restricting the scheduling of school district referendums at particular times of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how those 3 come out. The Senate has not scheduled any hearings on any companion bills as of yet. The current talks in the Joint Finance Committee have come to an impasse. They were to be discussing that last week. However, that has been sent back, ostensibly back to the JFC for further consideration. The Assembly has proposed their own legislation, which may further stall the bill, so we may be looking at a situation where we have a continuing resolution in order to fund the state, because that may hold up the bill beyond the deadline for the normal budget target. And the public testimony was received by the Senate regarding Senate Bill 169, which affects the concealed carry permit, and while that normally doesn't concern the school district, that would permit individuals from carrying, or it would permit individuals to carry weapons onto school district property unless the school district restricted them otherwise. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. The governor has publicly stated that he is not in favor of legislation, but it does have some good headwind in the legislature, so we'll be watching that. And as always, the WASB website has the latest information on your favorite legislative moves.
Can I ask a question? Was the last one 269? The last number that you gave with regards to the referendum restrictions, was that? was it-
282, 268, and 269 are the three assembly bills that you should be watching.
And do you have any feeling for how any of these are playing out, whether there's large support, no support?
As a lay observer, I'm surprised that it even made it to this stage. I didn't think they would make it out of committee, but they did. So I don't know. I guess my crystal ball is a little cloudier than I thought it would be. But we'll see, because if no matter what happens in the Assembly, if the Senate doesn't report those companion bills out of committee, then obviously it's not going to go anywhere.
Okay, all right.
And for all board members, it's definitely worth a call to Pat Teston, Nancy Vandermeer. I mean, for us, that we, because we don't have to go down to Madison, we can give them a call, we can call the office, just identify yourself, tell them you're calling, you're a member of the Stevens Point Area Public School Board, and, provide them with your input, because they really do listen. I mean, it does make a difference, those phone calls or emails, and if you don't have that contact information, Sue can provide that to you.
I have to just confess ignorance on 282. I think I understand 268 and 269, but I guess across the board, are they being lumped together as a group that are all being forwarded? And then the other question with that is that are we uniformly opposed to all of those restrictions?
All three of those bills are being heard at the same time, even though they're being considered independently. So they're not joining the bills, but they are having the hearing at the same time.
Yeah.
They all have different limits that they are placing on the ability of a local school board to make a determination as to referendum.
Good, thank you.
I'll just note, especially with new board member, WASB has lots of educational opportunities throughout the year. There's one coming up. Sue can give the information to you, Mike. I don't think it's happened yet. It's local, regional, and it's basically new board members. Here's what we think you should know. But everyone's welcome to attend that. They're great. They're really good. And then they're also, Sue provided everybody with a sheet tonight for their institute it's July 15th, excuse me, Friday, July 14th and 15th. George Kuntz is going to be the keynote speaker on Friday evening. There is no, other than that, it's just a keynote speech on Friday. Saturday is a full day of education, and it's a really good agenda. I, unfortunately, am out of state at attending a wedding, but there's some really good stuff in here. Tenets of master planning, effective school board meetings, student engagement, a journey to mental wellness, board superintendent relationships, fundamentals of school finance. I went last summer. It was in Sturgeon Bay, and it was really good. So if you're interested in going again, just let Sue know, and she'll get you all signed up. And we encourage that if you do attend, and there's materials that you have or particular information that you think would be helpful to board members who haven't been able to be there, you can get that information to Sue, and she can make copies for the rest of us. So.
And just one comment on that. I don't know about this one for sure, but I know there are a number of times where if you can't make both nights or both days, you can choose one of the days. Because I know, I work during the day on Friday, but I might try to do the Saturday workshop, so Sue can find that out for us.
Okay. Moving on to item 6B, communication report. Sarah.
It's Friday in the
Good evening. As always, the communication dashboard was provided in your packet material. Again, that's just a brief overview of our traditional media exposure for the month of May. New media exposure, website exposure, and then the last thing I want to mention relative to the communications dashboard is we've moved into summer programming now. So today we had swim lessons kickoff, as well as choir camps kickoff for students, and then next week we'll go ahead and start our actual summer programming. So academic, enrichment, swim will continue. It also, next week we'll start our free breakfast and lunch program for all children age 18 and under in the Stevens Point area. So children do not have to be even students who typically come to see us in the schools or students who are enrolled in summer school. At all summer school sites, they are welcome to come and join us for breakfast and lunch as long as summer school programs are running. So very excited to continue to offer that to our community. As far as communication goes, I do just want to put a couple things on your radar relative to summer projects. We traditionally backed off a little bit of our social media to give me a little bit more time to plan. So instead of seeing those daily or a couple times a day, it'll be a little bit more sporadic. We'll still highlight the wonderful things that we're doing as a district throughout the summer, but probably not as intense as we do during the actual school year. So just want to give you a heads up to that. And then also as we look at our planning, this is a time when we can take a step back and look to implement some of our changes that we have planned. Our biggest one over the summer, I don't remember if we've talked about this at a board level, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but we will be switching from our Skylert mass messenger, which is what we use to notify parents kind of on that global scale, think like phone calls when we cancel school. We'll be moving to a Blackboard product. And the major reason for that shift is what we found after the Ben Franklin incident, when we looked at the ways that our own communication systems work together, along with really what the county has invested in as well. Blackboard seems to be a product that not only the county utilizes, which gives us some additional communication opportunities there should we ever have something like that happen again, but also gives us, our website is a Blackboard product, so it gives us an opportunity to really streamline what's happening there. So that'll be our big push this summer, and then there's cost neutral, so there's no different cost implication for the board. So did just want to inform you that that'll be taking place, and we're excited to have that by August. That's
Any
it.
questions for Sarah?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, Superintendent's report.
Well, we had a very quiet end of the school year, which is quiet is good. I can't believe that we're already through 1 year. It's amazing how fast a year can go. I was just finishing up the interview process actually about a year ago. So quiet finish. It was a very good finish. It was enjoyable. It was very enjoyable being involved with the various graduations. We got our kids, our seniors, out and up and on to bright futures. That was exciting. We had a Project Search graduation where Governor Walker attended and spoke with the kids. That was very nice. Meg and I had an opportunity to talk with the governor afterwards, specifically as it relates to the state budget and public school funding. We continue to hire staff, and we continue to, have struggles and challenges with hiring staff. Supply and demand is really a significant issue, especially in the area of our special areas. Specifically special education, very, very challenging. We are filling some key positions. I'd like to recognize Dave. Is Florence out there? Where's Florence? I saw Florence.
There he is.
Dave, this is your last board meeting. I want to say thank you to Dave. He's moving on. He's retiring from this school district and going on to work in CISA 10. CISA 10. In what position?
Executive Director of Learning.
Which encompasses the professional development activities for all of the schools in CISA 10.
29 districts, educational, instructional services, and technology integration.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for yours. How many years here, Dave?
21, 22.
21, 22, somewhere around there.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Dave, you were saying, Dave, you're saying the smallest school district you're going to be working with, and then the largest.
Claire at 11,200 and Gilmington at 148.
Wow. So lots of different needs for,
I grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
And Florence, if you could just come up, please. This is also Florence's last school board meeting. And Florence has been here for three years, and will be moving back to Beloit to be with her family. And just want to say thank you, Florence, for the 3 years here. And good luck to you.
Thanks, Florence.
We are finishing up the transition to placing people on salaries, and Florence and I have been working, together on that. We have fewer issues, I think, than we anticipated, and that's positive. We're working through them, knowing that this is going to continue likely into the school year, and I would assume that we would still be working through some issues as we go through next year. And I would hope that by this time next year we'll be in a different place. So that's transitions going well. That's all I have for you right now.
You were going to talk a little bit about.
Oh, the other issue was the preliminary capital improvement plan. Tom and I had an opportunity to meet with Nexus a week or two ago. That first meeting was set really to get an idea of what our questions are. So we're actively scheduling a follow-up meeting with Nexus to we've got a number of questions as we move forward. We'll also then continue to update you as a board where we're at and what our process will be as we lay it out. There's just a lot of thought that has to go into that before we move anything forward. So when I know more, I will update the board and plan on it at our next board meeting or maybe even our business service meeting. I'll roll out a process so we can have a better idea of a time frame more than anything. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Craig?
I also have a slip disc, and my back went out on me this morning, so if I get up, it's not that I'm leaving, I'm just going to move around a little bit. It's not, if you have back problems, it's not funny, but holy cow, it's miserable. Thank you.
Item 7 is consent agenda. It includes the minutes from the June 12th regular school board, the minutes from the May 8th regular school board meeting, the approval of the schedule of monthly bills, and recommendations for employment.
Move for approval as presented.
Second. Any discussion or questions? If you could call the roll since it's bills.
Miss Daly?
Yes.
Miss Portson?
Yes.
Miss Baker?
Yes?
Mr. Ebo?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Contos?
Yes.
Miss Reno?
Yes.
Miss Scott?
Yes.
Miss Gerler?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Item 8, Business Services. Business Services Committee Chair Report. Amy.
All right, so we had a very busy meeting and also making a comment to the public. We will be looking for a new committee member as Mr. Wade has been appointed to the board. But then moving into our agenda items, we have the approval of the preliminary 2017-18 budget. This is a standing annual item. It basically just allows us to keep spending money on what we need to be spending money on until our final budget is approved come October. The budget that is presented in this is as close as we can get to what we suspect it may possibly potentially be, but is probably completely wrong. We have no way of knowing what grants we're gonna get or what money's gonna come in or go out. It's really just a projection. So that I move to approve the preliminary 2017-18 budget as presented.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion or questions? Do we need a roll on this?
Yes.
Okay. Could you call the roll then, Sue?
Miss Daly?
Yes.
Miss Portson?
Yes.
Miss Scott?
Yes.
Miss Reno?
Yes.
Mr. Contos?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Ebo?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Earler?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
All right, and then we have our energy exemption resolution. There are two motions for this, which we'll get to, but basically we have a couple projects we need to get done. These items we will be paying for in a way that it will actually come out of taxes, or it'll be credited towards our taxpayers in the upcoming years, if I've understood that right, Tom. Excellent for me. All right. So, well, it's a lot of money now. It does show what our savings will be over a year period on that also. So in the long run, this is really going to pay for itself. And in some of them more of a short run, it'll pay for itself. So for that, the first motion, I move to approve the resolution for energy exemptions for energy efficiencies in the amount of $1,270,702.
Second.
Any discussion? So, again, with new board member, state, I mean, you may be aware of it, Mike, because of your background, but state allows for energy exemption projects it allows the district to approve those, and it allows us to increase our cap, so we can move above our cap for these particular projects. But it's a rigorous process of verification that, yes, these projects are entitled to be under energy exemption. This is another area that our legislature is looking at possibly removing our ability to do so. But the state requires us within a very certain period of time to approve these projects, and then we do have the ability to exceed our limit to support the payment of these over time. Could I have a roll call?
Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebo?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Contos?
Yes.
Ms. Portson?
Yes.
Ms. Rano?
Yes.
Ms. Earler?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
All right, and our second item with this is the approval of Nexus Solutions as energy service company to serve as performance contractor for the projects listed. And so that's also my motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, then we're on to premises pollution liability coverage. If you recall at our last meeting, we approved insurance providers of who we were going to have an insurance policy with. Along with that, in additional review, it was brought up that, well, these insurance policies cover for a variety of things. They don't cover, for the example, if we start a remodeling project and find mold, and the removal and mitigation and all of that of the mold project. So this is to provide us an insurance policy that would cover for those situations. Or if we, as Dan, I think you made a story of if we found asbestos, the cleanup and removal of any disturbed asbestos. And so this is just another level of coverage that we would have, considering the aging of our buildings and what we will be going through in the next year or so with potential remodels. This is probably a good coverage for us to have. So I would move to approve Westchester premises pollution liability insurance coverage.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? I'll just note that the annual cost is $18,985 with liability limits set at $1 million per claim, $2 million aggregate. And I agree, as Amy noted, with the vast number of our buildings and the ages of those buildings and the reality that we know much more now than we knew then. There have been some districts around the state who have wound up with significantly uncovered liability because they did not have insurance to cover these hazards.
One district around Madison, I think it was $600,000 from a mold issue that they had to pay cleanup because they didn't have this type of coverage.
Jeff?
That 1 million, 2 million aggregate, is that typical? I mean, did they recommend that for us, or?
That's what, yeah, that's what.
Based on the
That was
size
the
of the
recommended.
Okay, any further questions? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we're on to Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act required meal price increase. This has become an annual item also. Basically, every year our business office has to go into the National School Lunch Program website and put in some information, and it would tell us what we should be charging for school lunch in order to continue to receive our government aid for lunch programs. And so in order for us to continue to receive that money, we need to increase our lunch price 10 cents per meal. And so with that, I would move to approve the increase to school lunch prices in the amount of 10 cents effective September 1st, 2017.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions on that? All those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, and my last item is the joint agreement with the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Portage County. We provide a service to our community in that we assist with providing lunches to the Aging and Disability Resource Center. And along with that, we aren't going to do so we would be losing money or necessarily even making somewhat of a profit. But because we had to increase lunch price on one end and the cost goes up, as we know, for living every year, we do need to increase their lunch prices also. And this one is 9 cents. So with that, I would move to approve the 2017-18 joint agreement with the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Portage County, including a 9-cent meal price increase to $2.95.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item 9, Educational Services Committee Chair Report, Barb Portson.
We had kind of a short meeting, very short agenda. We had a lot of things to celebrate, our graduations and our 5-6 track meet and all kinds of things that we were able to hear about. And then our big item was reviewing the athletic and co-curricular conduct code. And we talked about that briefly, and it will be coming to the board for approval.
So we are tentatively, they're working out, there were some questions raised, they wanted to go back and take a relook at things. At this point, it is definite that the athletic portion of it needs to come to us very likely at our board retreat, because they need to be able to have that available for the athletes to sign, the ones that are going to be doing fall sports. If Craig is able to work with the group and work the co-curricular out to the point where they feel comfortable bringing that to the board as well, we'll be looking at both of them. Otherwise, we do have the ability to kind of separate the two of them and allow for a further relook at the other one. Since it's new, it's not been done at the district before, there's more kind of, I guess, questions about it. The athletic, we have to do what WIAA says. We have the ability to set some of our own requirements, but much of it is driven by WIAA. Okay. Moving on to item 12, Human Resources Committee Chair Report. Judy.
So we actually spent most of our time at the meeting talking about the compensation plan and getting an update on how that's being filled in, as well as information on the employment. So we looked at some of the openings, what's being filled, what's hard to find right now. And so we had a discussion, basically what was in the superintendent's report. And so I noticed there's an agenda item here, so medical and dental insurance plan renewal. I don't know if Florence is here.
So I think,
yes,
I guess I'd like to note, for people who weren't at that meeting, Craig raised the fact that we're seeing a little bit of an interesting, well, I mean, it happens every year, but seeing more situations where we have a candidate, we have a really good candidate, we bring them in, we provide an offer with respect to them, and then they return to their previous employer, and that employer matches or betters what it is we have. And so I think Craig, I mean, noted that we're really seeing a little bit different dynamic in terms of that free market that has now in education, and that our prospective employees are aware of that, and they are having the ability, especially in those hard-to-find spots, to really kind of negotiate what it is that they believe that they need. So Florence, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, you covered it.
Yeah, so again, it's just a little bit, it's a different dynamic, and
It's challenging.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, but, we're actually interviewing people that are, you don't even know what their intentions are at this point. We're offering positions, and they're turning them down because they're getting a higher salary right where they're at. So it's a new day. It's a new day. And of course, it's not just happening in our school district, it's happening in all school districts. It's a free market in public education right now. So it's, we deal with it one person at a time, and we're trying to be, we're trying to keep some consistencies to the extent that we can. However, we're challenged right now with hiring special education teachers, specifically.
so it was wonderful to see in the earlier report under consent agenda that for those people who we are hiring, we are seeing a real mix of new and some who have just a few years of experience and some who have quite a bit of years of experience. And I saw there's some special ed. I mean, it looked like and I know that's been a huge challenge for Florence's department for as long as you've been here.
Yep.
So it's going to be a very busy summer in the Human Resources Department.
Definitely. And not only for my department, but the principals as well in the schools. They do a lot of work in that recruitment process to try to bring in good candidates to interview and make a good selection to hire. So I just want to give them recognition as well that they play a huge part in the recruiting. So the other item that's on the agenda, and my apologies, I have forgotten to place it on the HR committee agenda so that we'd have it for tonight, but with our medical and dental premium increases, medical, you'll see, is just information only. That is a group-funded plan, so the board does not necessarily approve any changes or increases in the medical plan. But we did see quite a significant jump in the increases for the premiums. And correction, the loss ratio is actually the 108.8% that you'll see in bullet or item number B under the summary of the calculations per the partnership agreement, not the 107.1% that was up above. It's the 108.8% for that. So with the health premiums, the increase is going to result in about an 8% increase for our premium cost to the district and the employees. So that's the total cost there that it will be increasing. Without the partnership agreement, though, we would have been seeing an increase of about 15.3%. So while 8% is still significant, it's definitely better than the 15.3% on that one. Again, no action needed from the board. Just wanted to share that for informational purposes so that you were aware of it. Dental, however, is self-funded, so the board has to approve any rate increases with that. With the dental, our plan with Delta Dental, our current overall funding rate is the $697,129. Based on the current premium and the projected increase in claims, the new funding rate will be $701,108, and that is a 0.57% increase. Last year, we had a very small increase as well of about 0.5 something or other, and we decided not to increase the rates because that fund was still doing so well. But this year, because of the additional cost to the plan, the dental plan, we are going to increase it by the recommended rates going forward. So we will need a motion to approve the increase in the dental rates of the 0.57%.
Any questions of Florence? Amy?
Aside from educational assistants, are there any other groups that don't receive dental insurance through us?
I believe maybe transit does not as well, the drivers.
Is that I know you don't have the numbers off, and it would be rude to spring that on you, but is that something that we can look into in the upcoming year?
Yes.
Okay.
And we do have it on our list. The new HR director, it's on our list, have spoken briefly with Craig about it, so we do want to look at that to see what we can do going forward.
Because I think in those harder to fill EA positions, that could really be an incentive to come.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Florence. Could I have a motion?
Move to approve the dental premium renewal rates as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Trish. Any discussion or questions with respect to the motion? All those in favor, with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to item 13, Policy and Legislation Committee Chair Report, Dan Contos.
The committee did meet, and we worked primarily on the new policies, as we have been doing for the last couple of months. We all but completed the 6,000 series, which are the financial policies, and with just a few questions that the superintendent was going to go back and clarify for the committee, and then when we meet next, go over those again, along with those in the 0 series, the former 100 series policies, which we just have a few policies to go over and do a little wordsmithing on. Those should be available for the board the next time around, so you'll have about a month or so to take a look at them. And then with the help of Sue and our president and the staff, they are diligently working on some other series of policies, and we hope to start working through those at a little bit quicker pace so that we can get them out to you soon. I'll leave it at soon.
Amy.
I do have to say a big thank you to Tom. He really did help streamline our process in going through the business service, or the business policies. I think that did help quite a bit, having a once-over before it came to us to look at.
Definitely. There's a lot of reading to do, and kudos to the committee for all the work that they put into that. They put in literally hours of work reading those policies and picking out all of the questions that they have. So it is easy for me to be the chair of that committee with such people on there. I very much appreciate it.
It was amazing. I mean, they found typos and misspellings in like big policies, so they were reading everything, definitely. Okay, thank you, Dan. Moving on to item 14, general. A is school perception survey results, and Sarah's going to make a presentation to us.
I tried to get some stuff turned on, so I apologize for this evening for getting a chance between meetings.
That's my backyard.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, not.
Firewood now.
Fence.
Jeez,
I bet he already has it out.
Does it sound like it's on? I don't know what this is.
On this side of the fence.
That's your yard?
It's just like
Oh, we came over from the neighbors onto your yard. Oh, wow.
Will this advance, Sue, or just? No, do you want me to stand in advance for you?
I think Daniel just won't pick me up for the video.
Keep that for firewood. Carve it out right there. Fence, is that your fence or?
All right, so every year for the last 4 years, we've done we've utilized School Perceptions, which is a Wisconsin-based company that really specializes in providing districts feedback, staff and parent feedback. So what I want to do tonight is I've provided you kind of an overview of that information. I've got some summary slides that I want to go through some very specific information. While we have used them over a number of years, this is the first year where we've used the same set of questions as we have used the previous year. So this is the first time that we'll be able to provide you some longitudinal data about kind of how we're doing relative to last year, which is very exciting to me. So we did conduct the survey. We'll look at staff first. I've got them separated out for you. In April, all staff members receive an email invitation from School Perception, so we provide that information, but we are not the ones who are really involved from that end. Staff members are able to then take that survey online. We leave that open for about a month, and each email contains that unique code, so they can only use it once. It also does provide us that opportunity for staff and parents to be completely anonymous. So there's no way that I can go back or anybody here could go back and say, you know, we can't tag an answer to a person. That's really important to us. We want to make sure that we continue to honor that for our staff and our parents. Our response rate and participation rate did go up a little bit this year over the previous year, so glad to have that. Our summary, when we take a look at really what we see come out both from those questions and from our comments, we see that trust in building leadership remains very high for staff. Building culture remains very positive for staff. They enjoy working with their colleagues. They enjoy working for their principals and with each other. They've got an increased understanding of district goals and effective district communication. We still have some ways to go on that, but we saw marked improvements here on that. And I do just want to point out, we see some baseline scores this year for district administration and school board, and I want to pat my administration and school board on the back for being open to that this year. This is a section that we have not traditionally asked, so I think when we see some of those scores coming in, it can be a bit jarring, right, or disheartening perhaps, but I think just being able to take that step to ask for that feedback and to be willing to take a look at that feedback is really very positive for the board and for the community. And I would venture a guess that had we been doing this over a number of years, we would see those scores improving. But again, I just want to commend you for being willing and open to have that out there to the community. So themes we see, we'll take a look at our opportunities first. We consistently see that mental health, social, emotional piece coming through. So commentary on what's happening within the classrooms. I did pull out, these are comments that are directly pulled from that survey, just to try to give you an idea of what folks were saying. So we see that come through. We see affirmation continuing to come through, so that feeling of not being appreciated, folks not understanding what it is that they are doing specifically to their job. I really specifically saw this come across for our educational assistant group. And then gifted and talented programming came through, just not consistently, but enough that it warrants being here of those high-level students perhaps not having the resources or attention that staff feel that we could or should provide them. And then that internal communication piece, so really taking a look at how we are distributing information to our staff, that we are doing that consistently, transparently, and that we are following through on that piece. Strengths that we see come through those themes, both from the questions and the comments. Again, that positive culture within buildings. My school and coworkers are fantastic. That's a pretty consistent theme throughout when we ask about what that daily work life is. Building leadership, again, continues to be something that is a strength for this district and for our schools. And then feeling valued amongst colleagues. So while we see that affirmation piece really be something that we can work on as an overall level, when they're really providing that feedback about what it's like to work with their colleagues, they do feel valued amongst their colleagues. And I do just want to point out, I won't spend a ton of time on these slides, when we look at the respondent information, it is consistently accurate of how our staff is built. So when we look at, oops, wrong slide, you know, the breakdown across schools, that is consistent with where we do have staff. what best describes your position, that is consistent with how our staff breaks down overall. And then, again, here, we're just a couple percentage points off of how many years staff has worked for the district. So we really are getting a pretty solid look at a good representation of the staff. These two slides, what grade would you give us? So we continue to see improvement there. Obviously, I'd like to see more A's and B's in there. And then how would you rate your district compared to neighboring public school districts? Again, we see improvement there. And these, I'm not going to spend time tonight going through them. You have copies of them. I've already put a copy on the webpage for folks who are watching or want to be able to see these under the communications portion of the website. But I do just want to point out, this is where we start to see that longitudinal data. So we see the 2017 scores, we see the 2016 scores, then we see that variance, and then that percent of who is falling into that 4 or 5 category. When we look at the variance, if we see anything that is a 0.2 and above, or a 0.2 and below. So for example, here our district strives to achieve consensus on areas that need improvement. You see that scored a minus 0.26 over the previous year. So we see that that is something, a sentiment that has decreased in our district since we surveyed in 2016. So as you're going through there, just to give you kind of a, what does this actually mean? When we see those variances jump either above or below that 0.2, we start to see that that is statistically significant. So certainly information that we have provided to our administrative team, which will take a deeper dive in August, obviously. We're not doing that right now, but to be able to do that planning. So that's what they're looking for as they're going through as well. Does that make sense? More with me? Okay. So these, again, I'm just going to jump through them unless anybody wants to stop somewhere. Then we'll get to the parent perception survey. Again, the survey was conducted in April. We did them at the same time, so parents and staff are both being asked these questions at the same time of the year with kind of the same external environmental factors going on. They're done the exact same way. We also offer translation services for our families who may need that through our Hmong and Spanish parent partners. And then they're also provided written surveys upon request, and those are sent in and tallied just with the online version as well. We want to make sure that we are not kind of counting anybody out. Again, we saw an increase in participation from 2016, so very pleased to have parents continuing to participate. That summary, overall district satisfaction increased, which is certainly a positive. We saw increased parent engagement opportunities at a secondary level, or at least the perception thereof. Continued confidence in and appreciation for teachers and building administration, that remained very high. And we saw really big jumps in increased trust that the district is run effectively and that they have effective financial management. So these are two very positive things, I think, for the district and the board as we look at overall where parents are at. Opportunities we saw coming out of both, again, those questions and those comments, that engagement and responsive piece. So asking more from parents, encouraging parents to get involved and helping, kind of tap them in appropriate places was certainly something that came through. Staff retention came through. There was many comments that were very specific to staff retention. We see certain teachers leaving. We've known these teachers for a long time. We want them to stay here. Emergency communication was in there. Again, direct result of that Ben Franklin incident, so definitely something that we know we can continue to work on. And that gifted and talenting program came through on the parent side as well, which surprised me. When we look at respondent information for parents, though, we have a very elevated group who state that their child is identified as gifted and talented. So that is potentially skewing those results a little bit, but certainly wanted to mention that it did come through. Strengths that we see: dedicated and welcoming staff. A lot of talk about community, parents, students, and staff all working together to make schools a really great place to be. Student opportunities and diversity of curriculum continue to be very important to parents and something that is noticed and I think valued as a community. High academic standards and use of technology. You can see there we have very high results both at the elementary and the secondary, that parents both believe that we have high academic expectations and that we are utilizing technology well within our schools. Communication also was a positive theme, and not just from a district level, but really also from that individual level. We know that parents want to be communicated with directly to teacher as often as possible. So we definitely saw some teachers being called out for doing that really, really well. Again, we see respondent information. This is a really good representation of where our students are at. So we feel that we do have it's a good representation of parents overall. Grade level, same thing. One or more of my children are identified as. Again, we see that higher gifted and talented. Here they're coming in at 12%. It's really 1% overall when we look at that population. Otherwise, everything else is about correct. And then on the race question, this is not representative of our other communities. So certainly low for Black, Native American, Hispanic, and Asian as well across the board. Our white student population hangs out at about 82%. When we get into some really specific communication pieces, this is just telling, how and where do you want to communicate with us. Again, that email is really high. Parent-teacher conferences continue to remain high. That face-to-face time with teachers is very valuable to parents, as well as conversations. A couple of website questions. And then we've broken these out into elementary schools altogether. So I will come through these. So this is all elementary schools. Again, it's that same variance you can see. We've got some district questions. Overall, how satisfied are parents? Parents are consistently very satisfied. Did I jump through? Oh, there's the Ben. I do just want to mention quickly for our secondary slides, we pulled out I pulled out Pods and I pulled out Charles Fernandez. It was such a small group of parents for either of those that when we were really looking at overall how our secondary is performing, it was really skewing that data in a way that wasn't giving us an accurate picture when we just looked at Ben Franklin Junior High, PJ Jacobs, and SPAC. But I do just want to note we certainly did survey them and have that information, and administration will be utilizing that. That's it for me.
Do any board members have questions of Sarah? Jeff?
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. But I noticed, as in past years too, that there is a recurring theme that one of the highest ranked items has been schools. The parents feel that they're safe and that they're clean, and so kudos to Don Keck and his team for doing a great job with our facilities.
Trish.
We've done this now for 3 years?
I think this is our fourth.
Fourth year? Okay. Does School Perceptions have suggestions on how to use this information specifically? I mean, are you working with them?
Yeah, so the information they provide for us, we take a look at it and we'll break it down by school for their administrative teams to take a look at. So in August, I'll make recommendations to them based on, here's some staff things we saw, here are some parent things we saw, here's some recommendations from a communication standpoint of how you could deal with that. It's also helpful, sometimes you'll see kind of things pop up, and sometimes there's an explanation for it, and sometimes there isn't. So when there is an explanation, like I would argue that the responsiveness from parents and that that one we pointed out from staff being lower is probably directly correlated to, I would argue, the elementary minute decision. So when we know that that is probably what that driving force is. We know very specifically what to address, either as a district or at a building level. But I think when it's, maybe we don't know what's going on, that's where we need those teams to dig a little bit deeper. So I would just call, it's fantastic data, and I obviously think it's very important that we do this on an annual basis, but it's definitely a perception survey. So it's a way to take temperature at the time that somebody took that survey, where they were feeling, where they were at, what they were seeing, and then using that, as a whole to inform decisions about, maybe there's different communication strategies we could take, or maybe we need to look again at our, gifted and talented program offerings. What really is happening in that classroom, those conversations are happening anyway, but I think when we see it come out here, it provides us another opportunity to continue to have that conversation.
This is a terrific survey and a terrific tool. I just want to make sure we're using it. And I'm wondering what school perceptions, if they have a whole method, or if they have suggestions on, well, you've scored this way in this area, you might consider doing X, Y, and Z, or...
Yeah, no, they really specialize in being able to help us receive that data, and then I think it really is up to our very capable administrative teams to utilize that data, for me to get it to them in a way that is digestible and usable, and then, okay, now how do we help that inform their practice to, keep moving forward.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one question. Are they able to provide the data in any way to compare our district to other districts?
Yeah, so they do provide a similar school analysis that'll take a look at 10 districts that they deem to be similar to ours that ask the same question set. And certainly that information is also provided on both a school level and a district level to our administrative team to consider when moving forward.
Oh boy, I'd like to see I'd like to see that maybe once.
So we've got a little bit later, just in a couple minutes, the board retreat. And clearly now we've got a few different pieces of information. We've got our own survey, we've got this survey. We will have information with respect to Craig and what his goals as superintendent are going to be next. So we will be, at least the board portion of this survey, I think it's going to be very helpful, another piece of help for us at the board retreat. Our goals clearly are very broad, but I think it's going to allow us to be able to tease out some things that we might be able to do better as a board, to be able to have that second year of the data collected show that we're moving in a positive direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, we're moving on to item B, strategic plan. Thank you to board members who were able to be at the second session and provide support and background. It sounds like, again, it was an incredibly productive and informative experience for everyone that was involved. What we have in front of us tonight are the next two pieces of that, that administration is looking at us to adopt so that we can use that to inform our moving forward. And we're specifically referring to the district pillars, strategic objectives, and the SWOT analysis. Last month, we approved our mission, our vision, and our beliefs. So again, we're looking to put that together so as we move, as administration takes it back and begins to try to put some roadblocks into how, building blocks into how we're going to move forward, not roadblocks, building blocks, how we're going to move forward, they'll know what they're supposed to be aiming at.
Right, we have 4 district pillars, and they have strategic objectives that are attached to the district pillars. Administratively, upon approval tonight, we then will develop strategies, action items, a timeline, and then certainly a measurement for each pillar. And then we'll continually update the board in terms of where we're at. This was meant to be a 5-year plan. which will be revisited each and every year as it relates to the strategies and the action plans.
Could I have a motion?
Move to approve Phase 2 of the strategic plan as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Any board members that were there have anything background they'd like to provide to the board? Amy?
So I think I said this to Craig and some other people as we were there. This is the third strategic planning committee I've been on, the first for the district, 2 corporate ones, and this was by far the best strategic plan I've worked on. I think everybody left with a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that a good job was done and that this was great work that we are bringing forward as a community. I'm just happy.
Joe was terrific.
He was terrific. He was the best.
Joe stated, and he wasn't just saying this, that our strategic objectives are the best that he's come up with, that the best that any
I'm
group
not
that he's
surprised.
worked with.
Well, you had the best
And-
group, too.
Well, there was a lot of thought, and it was a group that offered an awful lot and was able to step back and say, okay, I may not agree with that, or I would prefer it to read this way, but we collectively came together.
Yeah, I was particularly impressed with the group that was put together. I mean, it was a great cross-section of the community. Everyone was involved. Everybody participated. And I'm assuming that there was a strategy in the way the people were placed at certain tables, which actually I thought was very effective.
That was the most difficult part of the whole process.
I can
It was.
appreciate that.
And actually, the selection was difficult because I've only been in the district at the time when we created this for 6 months. And so I relied on Sue and the administrative cabinet. But the selection of who sat at each table was very strategic because you needed the right people.
And
it worked out.
I thought it worked out very well, so I was very impressed.
The only thing I missed on it was gender. I didn't take into consideration gender.
Well, you can usually
But it
tell
worked
by the
out
first
fine.
name.
I don't know. All right.
Have a table full of
Chris, I don't know.
table full of Pats.
Pat. I was thinking for Chris.
Chris and Pat.
All right, I'll have you call a roll on this.
Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Contos?
Yes.
Ms. Portson?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Early?
Yes.
It passes 9-0.
All right, we're moving into item C, which is the school board retreat. We had tentatively set a date. I know one of our board members was having a bit of a struggle, and we weren't sure if the appointed board member would be able to attend. The date that we've identified is the 26th. It would run from 6 to 9. Are you able to be?
I'll be here.
Thank you. We were so worried that if we got into July, I mean, it would have been pretty difficult to get us all together. We're still working on a location, but we'll let you know that real quick. But I actually have a call into the Windsor to see if they'll let us come just because they liked us so much. And that was such a great spot. But we'll probably start with a social at 6 o'clock for about a half hour, and then our agenda for last, we'll do those working principles again because we've got a new board member, and so we'll bring those forward again, and then we will work with Craig on his goals and objectives, and then we will work with the board's goals. I think we had 3 last year that were directly driven by the goals set for the superintendent. And then we hope to spend some time at the end of the meeting to have a good discussion from the board of kind of moving forward communication. And to really be able to kind of look at some of the successes that we had this past year from a board perspective, and some of those areas in terms of communication where we feel as a board we could have done things better, and how maybe we could do things better moving forward into the next year. I think last year, at least 7 out of, 70% of Craig's goals were pretty much communication related. I mean, I guess you could tease everyone communication related, and the same with us. And when we look at what's going to be on our agenda over this next year, and we look at just even the analysis we got tonight, I mean, that's really been a theme in this district for quite some time about the importance of better communication from the board to all levels, and it's really important that we get that good, appropriate balance between where our role comes in terms of communication and where the superintendent's role is with respect to communication, but then that we effectively communicate out to everybody what that is so that people have an understanding and maybe better expectations of what our job is and what the superintendent's job is with respect to that whole communication piece.
And once again, the date?
Is June 26th. All right. So could I have a motion to approve that? By 6 o'clock, social for a half hour, and then meeting for 2.5. From Jeff, and a second?
Second.
Dan, any further discussion or questions? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that meeting is set. Meeting dates, times, locations, future agenda items. At this point in time, we are looking for a motion to cancel the July 27 committee and regular board meetings. We'll be having that second meeting in June. Many of our administrators will not be available in July, and board members also. It gets pretty difficult to get people here, so.
Move to cancel the July 2017 committee and board meetings.
Do I, second by Chris, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, with that, I'm going to give you the caveat. In the event that we as a board need to make some decisions with respect to employment, contracts, hiring, et cetera, and we need to do that quicker than our August meeting because it's kind of a late meeting, we may need to call a special board meeting at a strategic time in July, and just whoever can be there, will be there. But that, at this point, is the one piece that we think we could potentially need to call us in July. Okay. Moving into item 15, which is closed session under 1985 paren 1 paren G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Could I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
And do I have a second by Trish? Okay, could you call the roll, Sue?
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Evo?
Yes.
Why does
Yes.
this thing jump into?
Yes.
Ms. Portson?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Ms. Brewer?
Did you see?
Yes. Okay, so we are now in closed session at